Hi, everyone. Welcome to Courage to Change with Karen, episode 35. We're going to read a little chapter here out of Let Go Now, Embrace Detachment as a Path to Freedom. And it's page 23. Before we begin, I just want to say hello and thank you for sticking with me. It's been a rough couple months for me. I think it's been, since the end of September. So I haven't recorded since for October or a couple weeks in November. And for that, I'm truly sorry. Life happens. And so it happens with me. Um, as a lot of you know, I'm a true believer in the universe and going with the flow. And wherever I'm at is kind of where I'm supposed to be at, where the universe wants me. And I have been the last couple months in a very unusual space, uh, which I never thought I'd be in. If you ever asked me when I was a young rock and roll party girl if I would ever be taking care of anyone sick, I would say no, no, I'm not doing that. And yet here I am. I've done it. You know, God's put me in this spot a few years ago, and it ended up being a blessing because it was during the pandemic, and I ended up being a caregiver. And it was perfect because we were at home, and where else could I have worked and made that kind of money and been, able to work from home and do my recovery stuff and still work and take care of my, um, my dependents and, the people in my family. And it worked out great. And then, through that, God has kind of moved me around. A lot of you know that. And I haven't really known what's going on. But a few months ago, I started helping a friend, a friend's friend. And it was such an unusual circumstance. I'll tell you about it so you know where I've been. But um, I'm in California, in Palm Springs, and I have some friends that had these two gentlemen, and they were very good friends of theirs for years and years and years. They used to be friends back in Chicago. And one of them got sick, and they were elderly. And the younger one of the two got sick, and they called an ambulance. And they were alone here in Palm Springs. All they had these friends, but they're kind of elderly too. And anyway, they didn't have anyone to help. And so they asked me, would you help? And I said, of course I'll help. So I went in to help, and the first gentleman who went in to the hospital, he never came home, and he ended up passing away. And so here I was in this situation, helping his partner who is 91, and he needed a lot of help. He needed help with everything. So I was helping him, and they were together for 61 years, and it was a beautiful thing to see. But just like this is kind of a known fact, I think, statistically, that someone, when there's a partner that passes in a relationship that's been together that long, it's not long after that the next partner passes. And that's what happened. I started helping the second gentleman who was 91 and ended up getting him, had to set him up with full time caregivers. And then he fell. And that was like, wow, he fell pretty bad right into the wall. And we had to take him to the emergency room. And of course, I was kind of like his granddaughter, I guess, maybe his daughter, but I like to say granddaughter. And, you know, went to the hospital, filled out the paperwork, did all that. And he came home and he never really recovered. And unfortunately, he passed. And so it's been crazy because I really didn't know these two men, and I was kind of dropped into their lives, and I just came to love. I didn't know Fred very well. He was the first one to pass away. I didn't know him very well because he went right into the hospital, but Chris and I became very good friends, and so his loss was very difficult for me, for a lot of reasons. And then, oh my gosh, we had a couple other friends pass in our little circle like within a week. And I was like, what is going on? But, you know, it's been given me a chance to be really helpful. and really learn a lot about what's important, what's not important. Life is short. Um, you can't take anything with you. You know what I mean? I'm dealing with their estate after the fact. And, they were quite wealthy and have a beautiful home and, the whole nine yards. And they didn't take any of it with them. It really kind of refocused me on what's important. And it shook me a little because they were alone. And they didn't have family with them when they died. I was the family, and that shook me. Of course, I don't want that to happen to me. And it makes you look back on how you take care of yourself and how much you exercise, because the way you take care of yourself today is directly going to affect your older age. Now, living in Palm Springs, which is a retirement community, I see people out golfing and lunching and going playing bridge and living the life of Riley here, going to fancy restaurants on El Paseo at night and living their best life, and they're in their 90s. So that means I got a lot longer to go. I think I think 60s are the new 40s. When I was young, I thought people in their 50s were old. It was over. And of course, now I'm in my 50s, and it doesn't seem like that. And from what I can tell, people are living longer and they're taking care of themselves and they're living a lot longer. And that really kind of shakes you up when you think, I've got all, they're living longer, but you don't have all the time in the world. This is a valuable gift. Life is a valuable gift. So that's what I've been busy doing. And I'm grateful for it because it's given me a lot more experience. Now, interestingly enough, my real work, what I know the most about alcoholism and addiction, is helpful in these areas, because the first gentleman, when he went in to the hospital, he was getting onset dementia. And I asked the doctor, I said, what is the diagnosis here? Why are we in here? And he said, well, overall, this is alcohol induced dementia. All of the problems that he's exhibiting now are from alcohol use, his alcoholism. And so I didn't know him, but I'm assuming he was an alcoholic, from what the doctor was telling me. And from then working in his home, and seeing the lifestyle and the amount of booze and stuff, I could see that that was a problem. Now, underlying, interestingly enough, as I got to know the man on paper, by handling, the forms and the paperwork that were involved in his medical care and his demise, uh, he had underlying mental health issues, and he had for a long time. And as I always talk about, those two things go hand in hand. I believe he was trying to treat his mental health with alcohol. And of course, the consequences are dire and dramatic. And I think that the way they had planned it was that the older gentleman, who was in his 90s, was going to go first, but that's not the way it worked out. So I was able to be helpful, and I was able to understand what was going on and how this was going to go. Because that part I know a lot about. So I was able to be helpful to these people and to the family that's back east that didn't get to come out or whatever. Um, and I'm still being helpful to them today and supporting some other people because we've had a lot of loss in the last month. And I was really, my last friend, when I was told, hey, guess what, so and so passed, and I was shocked. I mean, young, vibrant, just a pistol of a woman. I loved her. She was she didn't, no bullshit kind of gal, told it the way it was, just my kind of person. I just loved her. Funny, kind of crude and blunt and funny, and live life to the fullest. I mean, I just love this gal, and I was shocked. And I said, how'd she die? Massive heart attack. Wasn't feeling good, went to the hospital and died in the hospital of heart attack. It was her time. And I was getting really very depressed. I'll be honest with you. I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening in my life? And then I had to, reframe that. I'm going to talk a lot about that because that has really saved my ass the last few weeks is reframing. So I had to reframe that. I have a tendency to go down like a rabbit hole of depression. I'm very sensitive, very emotional, and I care a lot about people. And I can't do that. So I had to decide. I sat down and decided, okay, I don't know why this is happening, but I do know God has put me here for a reason, or the universe, the great creator, the stream of life, whatever. And I'm right where I'm supposed to be because I can be really helpful here. And I'm going to be helpful. God is giving me these situations so I can be more helpful to people. And that's the way I reframed it. And after I reframed it, I felt much better. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm next. The instant I have a little headache and I think it's a brain tumor, all of a sudden it's all about me. And instead I reframed the situation to be, oh, God has me right where I can be helpful and I can gain more experience so I can help others. So, it's been interesting, but I have not been on here. Um, and I'll be honest with you, I am starving spiritually to get reconnected. I feel disconnected. I've been in my head a lot because of the financial and the business things. And I've been going to meetings. I go to all my meetings now are on Zoom, but I really feel disconnected from source and I need to reconnect to source. And how I personally do that is I get into action. And, prayer is one thing, meditation is one thing, but there's something about action. I think action is our superpower. And I don't think enough of us utilize that. I think getting into action and out of my head is the best way to connect to source is it really allows me to be where my feet and my hands are. And I don't want to poo poo prayer. That's not what I'm doing, but I'm saying you've got to have some action. And my action is going to be I'm going to go to more meetings. I've already upped my meetings and my readings, back to my readings, um, doing more walking and just trying to get kind of back to center because I've been off center. So you're going to do this with me, I guess, because I'm back to my readings and I'm going to share them with you, do them with you. I always like doing them more with you. And it's funny. I will say this as well. I'm sorry I'm going off on a tangent here, but it's funny because I have done these readings for a while. I've been doing this all year. And, I don't hear anything from anybody. It's like crickets out there, and I know you're there. And how I know you're there is as soon as I stopped and I missed my couple weeks, people reached out to me and said, "Oh my God, did you stop doing this? Are you not going to do this anymore? I miss you doing this." And so I know you're there and I appreciate you more than you know. I got a really kind message from someone yesterday. It brings tears to my eyes. And talking about support, how supportive this kind of stuff is for her. And, I feel the same way. I feel the same way. I feel whatever you have to do to move forward, however you have to fake it, pretend, just do it. Just do it till it feels right. I mean, a lot of times these readings, I think, oh, I'm not going to do this today. I'm just too tired, or I just don't feel like it. But I know I'm doing it with you guys, and so I show up. And that's kind of the way I fool myself, trick myself into being consistent. So I'm sorry about not being around for the last month, but I am here. I'm always here for you. And if you ever need me, reach out to me if you don't hear me on the podcast. Um, I am going to really kind of roll this into just my podcast and my newsletter um, because I'm starting to do some other things to to quench my soul, and a lot of I love flowers and I love entertaining. Not so much me entertaining, but I love party planning. I'm a little I'm like a little drug addict Martha Stewart. Like a little recovering Martha Stewart. I love that stuff. And so I've started doing that. I've started a magazine, and I'll share that with you later, but with my tips and tricks. And, I've just really enjoyed it. And so I've started spending a little more energy in other areas of my life. And, interestingly enough, they all seep together because I just had this brilliant idea. One of the hardest things for me when I was newly sober, or anyone that's newly in recovery, is the holidays. How do you do the holidays sober? How do you do the holidays when you have a newly sober person in the house? It feels awkward. And so I've written this really fantastic magazine. Um, One of the editions is on your first clean and sober holiday, and it takes you from Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. And it's got a lot of great ideas and games, and how to instead of white knuckling it through the holidays, enjoying and really being present for the holidays. So I'm excited that these two areas of my life are finally merging. And I feel I'm coming out of a fog from all this kind of you know death stuff that's been going on. So join me today on page 23 of Let Go Now, which is by Karen Casey. She also did Each Day a New Beginning. I've really enjoyed this, and I love this whole topic of detachment. So today it says detachment is knowing that what others do is not a reflection on you. When our companions act out or treat us poorly in public, when our friends or partners are rude or ill behaved in any way, it's easy to think that others are judging us along with our partner for whatever he or she has done, particularly if we have been guilty of this form of judgment ourselves. I don't think we instinctively know that another person's behavior reflects solely on them and never on us. If others do judge us for someone else's behavior, it's generally because they are enmeshed in the action of others themselves. Having good boundaries with people on our journey requires daily attention. Because we know others are sharing our journey for the lessons we are both here to learn, it's easy to slip over the line that actually separates what any one of us individually needs to master. We aren't separate from one another in the spiritual sense, but that's another matter. Let's not confuse the two. When we do, others' actions and choices get in the way of our peace of mind. And neither of us can find the joy that has been promised to us. Defining our boundaries with others serves both of us. It assures that we will never get entrapped in emotions that belong to someone else. This is a great reading. Um, I was thinking about when I was a little girl. One time, we missed the bus. My friends and I all rode the bus together. And if you're listening to this, these girls, may be following me. I think one of them is. She might listen to this, and she's going to get a giggle. But it was me and Julie and Marcy and Kathleen. And I walked down and I picked up Marcy and Julie, and then we walked over, I picked up Kathleen, then we walked down the street and got Julie and Marcy, and we all walked to school. But one day we missed the bus, and we got to Marcy's house, and Julie had walked over to Marcy's too, and we knew we were going to miss the bus. We were way late. And so Marcy went in and asked her uh, mom to take us to school. And it could have been any of our moms. It could have been any. It just so happened to be her mom. But her mom came out and still had curlers in her hair, and a bathrobe on. She was just getting up. I mean, she was, you know, mothers get up and they get their kids ready and out the door to school before they ever get ready. So she comes out with her keys and jumps in the car, and we're all looking at each other like, oh no, oh no, she's going to take us to school like this. And I remember we were going to school. And Marcy was like, drop us off here, like a block away. And she thought that was pretty funny. She says, well, no, maybe you guys won't miss the bus again if I take you right to the door. And so she did. She took us right up to the front. And I remember getting out. And we were all like, not only did we want to pretend like we didn't get out of that car, but we wanted to pretend like we didn't even know Marcy or her mom. Even Marcy didn't want to know her mom. And it reminds me of this reading. If you've ever been with someone and they act the fool or cause a scene in a restaurant or at a wedding, I mean, it is mortifying. You want to crawl under the table. But what I've learned is that is really no reflection on me. As I've grown up and I've learned and I've created boundaries, um, it's got nothing to do with me. Like it would be happening if I wasn't there. If I wasn't there that day, Marcy's mom still would have taken them to school. You know what I mean? It's not about me. And if someone judges you on that, it's usually because they themselves are enmeshed in someone's behavior. And I like what it says there, where we're all the same, like we're all cut from the same cloth. We're all spiritually connected. But other than that, that's it. I'm not responsible for someone else's behavior, even someone I love. And it's been very hard for me to keep my mouth shut and not make excuses, and not try to fix it. Um, it's been hard. And I'll tell you what, last night I got a call from a new gal, and she's codependently leans codependent, even though she's just recently quit drinking and she's going to AA as well for her, for her own reasons. But she's very codependent is one of the ways that her disease presents itself. And she called me and she said, this meeting I've been going to, the people are kind of getting mean with each other. They're making snide remarks and poking each other and in their shares, and it's becoming toxic. It's becoming toxic. And I think we should say something. I think I should say something. And I think that we shouldn't behave that way. And she told me how she felt, and I could relate because I years ago felt that way too. But I said, this might be a perfect time for you to learn um, some new recovery, some new tools. And that is, why don't you not say anything? Because it has nothing to do with you. They're not jabbing and poking at you. You're not responsible for other people's feelings. There's nothing there for you to fix. Why don't you just watch the show? Let's see how it works out. Let's see how people respond. Let's see how this all works itself out without you. And I said, it's hard, and I'm telling you, it's hard. It's hard to be quiet. It's hard to let someone act the fool or embarrass themselves and not be affected by that. But that's the goal. And the reason it's the goal, I explained to her last night, I said, if you can get this part, if you can somehow stay in those meetings, don't quit, don't cut and run, stay in the meetings, let people be who they are, leave them alone, and let's see what happens, right? Unless it affects you directly. But otherwise, if it doesn't, let's just leave people alone and watch the show. Let's see what happens here. And if you can do that, it's a huge step. And what it is it's freedom. It's freedom. You start setting yourself free when you can detach from other people's behavior and other people's consequences. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe my whole life I was butting in and interfering. And usually most of the times that I interfered on things like this and I got involved and I started, telling people, setting them straight, oh, you know what? That wasn't very kind of you. You shouldn't say that to so and so. Most of the time, so and so didn't want me involved anyway and would be resentful because I said something. Like maybe they were just trying to ignore them. Maybe they were on their own journey of growth and had a different angle. And I'm putting in my 2 cents that was not asked for. You know, um, that was me. and then wondering why everyone was mad at me. And then it's like stirring the pot. All of a sudden, everybody's mad at everybody and everybody's talking about everything. No, 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 no. No, no, no. If it's not directly about you, if it would be happening if you were not there, button it, zip it, watch the show. Watch the show, don't be the show. It's the same thing if you have adult children and they come for Thanksgiving and they get in a fight. Don't get involved. Now, if they're underage and they're in your care, that's another thing. But adult children or children, adult children arguing with the other parent, it's got nothing to do with you. Butt out. Let these people deal with it themselves. Don't take sides. That's what I'm a big proponent of. If you're with someone who's drinking, always have, the Uber app on your phone. Always have some like money on there. Get a gift card and put some bucks on that Uber card. So, regardless of where you're at, if someone, if you're at dinner and someone all of a sudden is knocking things over and tipping over the table and threatening the guy at the next table, you can just get up and get in an Uber and go home. Let them do their thing, whatever they're going to do. If they're going to get arrested or if they're going to, drive home drunk or whatever, exit stage left. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's not your doormat because it's got nothing to do with you, right? And with this kind of behavior comes freedom. This learned trait of just minding your own business is such a relief. It really is. I want you to try it. I want you to try it the next time, Now, I'm not talking about like if you're a school teacher and kids are getting into it. Well, that does affect you because you're the teacher, right? So you got to, be conscious of what you're doing here. But if you're somewhere, if you're at Walmart and the guy in front of you starts arguing with the cashier, try not to butt in. Try not to say, I'm using this for example because this was me. If someone didn't have enough money, I'd pay for them, right? Or I'd say, you know what? I don't think she said that. She said that it was 20% off. I tried to explain it for them because they weren't explaining it right. I was just trying to be helpful. And you know what? It was none of my business. And you will free up so much time and energy when you can learn this, when you can just back up and not get involved in everything that's going on around you. Watch, become a spectator. Okay? And give that a try. Let me know. Email me, text me, message me, whatever, and let me know how it goes. I'll see you next week. I love you guys. Bye bye.